Hey everybody. So this is going to be kind of a fun exploration of Nostr, and this is going to be and we're going to invite audience participation. So I'm going to go through some, advanced or bleeding edge or fanciful or I don't know how to describe them concepts about layer 2 Nostr, and we'll invite any folks with thoughts, criticism, insults, metaphysical speculations to shout them out. And I'll repeat them up here so our friends on the internet can see.
We should all wear rollerblades.
We should all wear, okay. Do you have any? All right, so the idea is a chat app for Nostr. If you have not been living under a rock, obviously Nostr has become a thing recently. Most of the Nostr apps that are out there are focused on the kind of Twitter clone use case, which was kind of the motivating factor in the creation of Nostr, was kind of creating a censorship-resistant version of Twitter. So the tagline is a truly censorship-resistant alternative to Twitter that has a chance of working, but the protocol can very clearly be adapted for things other than social media. And I was in the Telegram group maybe a year and a half ago and kind of exploring with people the possibility of using this for chat, because I wanted to add chat to an app that I was working on. And one of the cool things about Nostr is that all the development happens in the open. So you can go search back through the Nostr Telegram group and go and review all of those conversations from a year and a half ago. And see kind of what led to the formation of the public chat NIP. So, every single kind of feature that gets added to Nostr is added as a NIP or Nostr Improvement Protocol or Nostr Improvement Possibility, is it? So I wrote most of this and had some help to kind of put it together, but, wrote a spec for public chat. So one of the tough things about this is that Nostr is intended as a broadcasting protocol, so things that are private the protocol isn't really built for that. So the emphasis here is on public chat. But of course, where there's a will, there's a way, and there is a demand for more private chat. So we've got NIP 38 as a draft, and Vishal, I hope, is going to be helping actually on ARC a little bit soon here. But Vishal, who's the author of Nostr Console, one of the other Nostr clients that has integrated NIP 28 for chat channels, and his console has been working on NIP 38 for encrypted group chat. And I think there's even a NIP 38 at this point with like a different take on this. So just goes to show that where there's a demand for a type of thing, even if Nostr hasn't already been built for it, there's people adding and proposing to add all sorts of cool things. And if you want to get a sense of where Nostr is going, if you go to the NIPS repo and you look at the pull request, you can kind of see the different things that people are proposing. One funny example is medical data, and not to make fun, but the author of this is Vitor Pamplona, who is the developer behind Amethyst, which is currently the leading Nostr Android client. Huge props to him when people are asking about how they can get on Damus, or if Damus is on Android, the recommendation people say use Amethyst. But he proposed this NIP for medical data. It's just a kind of a funny topic because some of the Web 5 people on these Twitter battles that we have sometimes, they're like, well, Nostr can't be used for medical data. And then Vitor, put forward apparently a pretty, serious proposal for how it can. And then a whole bunch of knacks and no, this shouldn't belong here. But then he's like, I've been working on this for 15 years. So this will get discussed and may or may not be merged if certain considerations can be handled. One of the ones I wanted to point to that I thought was super cool was this one called NIP 100. So WebRTC signaling over Nostr. This is something that also has been a topic of conversation in the Telegram group for maybe a year. There was maybe a year and a half ago, there was Impervious held a hackathon, and one of the winners was a project called Redphone. I think it was Pseudozak who did this kind of proof of concept showing how you could use the Impervious node, which at that time was kind of this wrapper on top of an LND node, to do signaling, to set up peer-to-peer voice and audio calls. And I think Impervious may have done a version of that into their browser, but this idea of using a signaling layer, whether it's Lightning or something on top of Lightning or now Nostr, people have said, hey, that's actually something that Nostr can help with. So I think that over the coming, 6 months, I think you'll start to see some clients, potentially including Arc, experimenting with setting up peer-to-peer audio, video calls using WebRTC with Nostr as the signaling layer. It's to the point now where it's literally impossible for any one person to keep track of all of the NIPs that are going on. Saw a tweet from the protocol lead author yesterday, Fiat Joff, about how his brain is melting from all the stuff that's going on. Can't keep track of stuff. But it's really exciting that this is kind of grown into its own phenomenon at this point, and people can have the freedom to come in here and propose things, and it gets banged around by certain people who like being involved at the protocol layer. That's not where I'm most comfortable. I just helped write this because I care about the use case. Did a super early proof of concept, but Super, who's in the room, did the best kind of job of turning into a client that proved the demand for this. Enigma, which has been the most popular client, Telegram clone, web app, little janky, not to make fun of Super, but putting it all into one index.html file. It works. It works. Janky and proud of it. Okay, so some cross-site vulnerabilities from certain things, but it proved the demand and built up a whole bunch of chat messages to the point where now anyone else who's building a chat app, you usually have to have some fake data in there, or it's really an amazing experience as a developing a chat app to be working with live data that I'm pulling into my app, but that has been generated by other clients. And on a protocol that I wrote a year ago and haven't done much with until recently. So it's just really cool that other people can kind of build on each other's work. So the kind of tagline for Arc is chat at the speed of lightning on Nostr. One thing that I hope to achieve in the next month or two is a really solid, what I'm calling chat zaps. Basically the same kind of seamless, the zapping integration from that Damus has, for example, which some people have criticized that it still takes sometimes 6 or 7 taps to be able to zap. Hopefully we can bring that down closer to one click, or at least make it as easy as possible. But to have that same idea attached to messages where I can be sending zaps to people for messages, make it as easy to send money as it is to send a message. So I got probably more information than you would ever want about the making of Arc. I'm basically recording almost every development session that I do, and did just this all in the past month. If you can kind of want to see how I integrate different things, or if you care about something like the delegated event signing, NIP26, integrate Nostr Connect and do some pretty fun stuff and talk about different kind of architectural considerations, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But I first wanted to just kind of meditate on okay, I want to build a business. I want to focus on this full time. I want to build a company around this. How do I do it? Because there's some interesting considerations building a company using Nostr, and I'll highlight this one kind of funny Twitter thread from a few weeks ago. Some Bitcoiner, I'm not sure who he is, Mateo, says, what are the incentives for Nostr clients and relays to spend time and resources on building great products if their user base can disappear overnight? Because there's so much interoperability. A Nostr login can log you into essentially any Nostr client, and people can very easily go between clients. And pretty much every client to this point has been open source, so we're all reading each other's code, so that there's no moat really, at least in the client so far. Now, my response to this was, because a massive user base can appear overnight too. One big Nostr user base that can flow frictionlessly to the best clients lets me as a developer focus on building the best product possible, knowing word will quickly spread if I can deliver the goods. And Mateo's response was, that's not how businesses work. I'm surprised that blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm excited to prove you wrong. So this is it's funny. But yeah, no one really has figured this out, how to build a business with maybe enough of a moat to justify, raising money for a company. This is all somewhat unsolved. The angle of approach that I think makes sense is to have one like really great, well-designed, consumer-facing, consumer-friendly app that, we're going to have chat zaps and things like that, and it'll be, a free app, probably some different kind of freemium things, maybe kind of like Fountain has their $3 a week or $3 a month subscription for premium with some premium features. That's all possible. My speculation also is that as we figure out the kind of architecture of what Nostr at scale looks like, which no one has really gotten to the point where we're even talking about scale, because we're still talking about daily active users total network-wide in, I think, the tens of thousands of range. But the speculation, and I think it's accurate, some of the Twitter threads point out that like this client relay architecture might not be able to scale, and there's different kind of arguments around that. My argument in part is that there's going to be a Nostr layer 2. I found that when I was writing code for the processing all of these chat events, what I found myself wanting was an easier way of pulling in messages to the app that did not rely on streaming messages one at a time from a WebSocket, which is sort of the typical way that clients are expected to get events from relays as specified in NIP1. I wanted something that was a little bit more in line with the kind of conventional client-server architecture that you would expect from a mainstream app, basically making an API call and just fetching all of the messages that are needed in just that one thing. Part of the other issue there is if you are pulling in one at a time and you're relying on the client to do all of that validation, and you're doing these somewhat expensive, cryptographic hashing operations to decode the different things, it's very slow to do that in a client app, particularly if you're talking about React Native and you're trying to do that via JavaScript using the Nostr tools library and tying up the JavaScript thread. Conceivably, certain of that could be moved down to native libraries. I'll try not to get too technical here, but my kind of thought here is that there's probably going to be a layer 2, and let's kind of maybe scratch our own itch and see if there's something that we can design that better fits our use case. And so this was my initial proof of concept 6 months ago. This is on our Arcade Labs Inc. GitHub repo called Indexter-Node.js. And I'll just read this briefly. Bootstrapping Nostr's layer 2 with an indexing node. Indexer nodes are servers that pull events from multiple known relays, storing them forever-ish, and making available to clients via API. Why? Because modern applications may want more advanced querying than are currently supported by Nostr relays, receiving messages in a batch via API, not one at a time over a WebSocket, fewer expensive cryptographic operations done client-side, e.g. trusting an indexer to do the event validation, and to retrieve large amounts of messages quickly and reliably via one API without caring about the uptime and feature sets of multiple relays. It's a little bit different of an approach from what like Fiatjaf, for example, has said that he wants, which is for clients to be more smart and have more information about relay data shown in the clients themselves. But I think this is an approach that has to be explored. And if we run into some problems with it, let's discover what those are. So I did a little bit of this. There's another project called Nostr Indexer from Lightning Koala. I think not currently being maintained, but another kind of MVP. There's other people kind of trying to solve indexing on Nostr. So I revisited this a couple weeks ago and am kind of rebuilding a Rust version of this as a Towery app, and I've got videos kind of documenting my decisions and development around this using Rust. This Towery is this amazing desktop app that uses TypeScript and Rust. So ran this and indexed 900,000 events and kind of starting to sift through there. And so coming back to the point about the business piece, my speculation is that if we are able to sort of scratch our own itch in creating some of these layer 2 architecture that meets our needs, maybe certain of that can be productized or turned into a service for other startups who are not going to spend 18 months in the trenches of the Nostr Telegram group to kind of get a bearing on this. And maybe that's just something that we can make available to other, Nostr startups who want to focus on a use case and not have to worry about all sorts of advanced architecture stuff. So from a positioning standpoint as a company, doing an app arc that hopefully becomes a massive kind of consumer success, but at worst is sort of a reference implementation showing how we're going to be consuming these more advanced layer 2 architectures, integrating indexing and just, more advanced strategies that we can then make available to other people. So heavily work in progress. Invite folks to kind of follow along on our Arcade Labs and the website where I'm kind of documenting as I build all this. And, we're going to keep an emphasis on shipping product as we go. We have a very basic beta app that's available right now for Android and iOS. If you go to our website, thearcapp.com, you're welcome to click. You can go to beta to join the test flight. There's basic chat that works now. You can join channels. You can create channels. You can see the channels that are in there. Some of them are, a lot of them are in Mandarin. Just people enjoying the newfound freedom of being able to connect peer-to-peer and say kind of whatever they want in a very sort of Wild West-ish fashion. But it's really beautiful to see. So I want to kind of open it up to a few discussion points here, but I want to bring my new friend ChatGPT-4 into the conversation. And as I'm thinking about, let's say I'm trying to build a story around what value Arc and the company behind it can capture down the road. What are other successful models that I want to look at if we're trying to focus on building a chat app? Well, if you don't know, massive app, they call it a super app in China called WeChat, which began as a very simple messenger. And then added, social networking, added marketplaces. So if you're in China now, you kind of have to use WeChat or the equivalent. I forget the name of the other one, but you have to use these super apps to get around because it's got payments. You got your QR codes. You got all these. You book a ride. You can get your groceries. You pay your rent all through this app. And I'm like, okay, we've got already within the Nostr community a big emphasis on people creating micro apps. A lot of the kind of funding that's been allocated for the bounties are for people creating micro apps for different things. And so there's going to be all sorts of different, smaller experiences that some developers build that are all interoperable with each other. But my position is there's probably still going to be a need to aggregate those experiences into a really consumer-friendly app. And so let's take this angle of what might a sort of Nostr or Lightning-based WeChat look like. Is that even something that's feasible? And so my first question to GPT-4, the newest AI model that came out, let's see how smart it is. So I said, WeChat is a very popular super app in China. Help me understand why such an app has not emerged in Western markets. We really just don't have an equivalent. And let's see what it says. And then I asked it also kind of to comment on what it thought a Nostr Lightning version of this could help with, and then we'll see what thoughts folks have on the response here. So while WeChat is indeed a successful super app in China, offering a wide range of services like messaging, social networking, payments, and more within a single platform, a similar app has not emerged in Western markets for several reasons, 6 of them. One is market fragmentation. Western markets, especially the US and Europe, are composed of numerous countries with different languages, cultures, regulations, and consumer preferences. More challenging for a single app to dominate the market. 2, established players. There are already several established players in various sectors in Western markets, such as social media, Facebook and Twitter, messaging, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and e-commerce, Amazon, eBay. These have built strong user bases. See, my quick reaction to strong user base is I'm someone who used Facebook from 2009 to 2020 hardcore. So I was a power user, right? And then I haven't used it for 2 years because I just got so sick of the people on there and the ads, just everything I just hated about it. And I'm on Twitter happily, but I don't think these user bases are as strong as they think. Anyway, difficult to compete against, okay, especially for a new entrant trying to provide all these services in one app. Regulatory environment. Western markets have more stringent regulations on data privacy and antitrust. GDPR, okay. Consumer preferences. Western consumers tend to prefer specialized apps for specific purposes rather than a single app offering multiple services. Many consumers in the US and Europe use separate apps for messaging, social networking, and online shopping, and may not be receptive to a one-size-fits-all app experience. Yeah, for me, I've got too many damn apps on my phone. Like, streamline it, minimize it, give me one with a really solid Lightning Wallet experience, one or two or three. Monetization challenges. In Western markets, consumers are less likely to accept the kind of advertising and promotional content often found in super apps. We don't need to do that. Difficult to generate revenue. Innovation and competition. The Western app ecosystem is characterized by constant innovation, fierce competition with new startups, blah, blah, blah. Difficult for a single app to maintain a dominant position. While there has not been a WeChat-like super app emerging in Western markets, several platforms such as Facebook and Google have attempted to expand their services to cover a wide range of user needs, varying degrees of success, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water. Any quick comments, insults, comments? Shout it out. Go ahead. Do you use it? I want Super to use it. I want an app that Super wants to use. Okay? I don't. Yeah, plenty of people use Facebook, sure. Yeah. It is an industry leader. We'll see how their metaverse focus does for them. Okay, so I said in your first message you mentioned 6 points. Please respond to each after I fed it some snippets of Nostr articles and the Nostr spec and kind of was like, hey, here's what Nostr is. Please respond to each point with examples of how a Nostr super app could address each. So market fragmentation. A Nostr-based super app can reduce market fragmentation by integrating multiple micro apps and services, allowing users to access various services within a single platform. By doing so, users won't need to switch between different apps for different services, ultimately streamlining their experience. For instance, within the super app, users can access messaging, social media, financial services, and e-commerce, all seamlessly integrated and interconnected. Sounds about right. I'm just going to blast through this because I've got 7 minutes. Okay, established players. To compete with established players, a Nostr-based super app can leverage its censorship-resistant and privacy-focused features to attract users who are concerned about privacy and censorship on existing platforms. Okay, cool. I'm not going to repeat that for our internet friends. Okay. A regulatory environment, we'll skip that. That's boring. No one cares. Consumer preferences. The Nostr-based super app can cater to consumer preferences by offering a customizable and modular experience. Users can choose which micro apps and services they want to include in their interface, tailoring the app to their specific needs and preferences. Diverse, blah, blah, blah. Monetization challenges. Now, this was before I fed it some more information about Lightning, but I think that will add an additional wrinkle here. A Nostr-based super app can explore alternative monetization strategies that don't rely on advertising or user data exploitation. For example, the super app could offer premium services, features, or subscription-based access to specific micro apps. It could also allow micro app developers to monetize their applications individually, with the super app taking a small fee or commission from those transactions. Innovation and competition. Nostr-based super app can foster innovation and competition by providing an open platform, blah, 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 blah. As it now imagine that this super app integrates the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and then just more on kind of new revenue models, developer incentives, seamless transactions, micropayments. Okay. So I'm going to kind of wrap up here. So I think there's enough here worth exploring that there's a path forward for this. And this is something that I am going to be building in public and, meditating about in overly long videos. I'm going to try and condense them down a bit. Follow me on Twitter. I post and tweet about Nostr-based architecture stuff. And then I think I can share that the announcement yesterday of Wolf's Accelerator, if you see the number 2 company, unnamed, but the WeChat-style super app for Nostr and Lightning. So I will be going to New York in a couple weeks. Oh, thanks. And gonna build this for 8 weeks and see how that goes. And a quick plug to the Wolf Accelerator, which they have been amazing to work with thus far. They just announced yesterday they opened applications for cohort 2. Applications are open until April 7. It's 8 weeks, live and work in New York, 250K investment, and awesome folks. They've said specifically in public on Twitter, they are looking to add more Noster builders to upcoming cohorts. So check it out, and if you want to run any ideas by me beforehand, let me know. Okay, thanks so much.